Kyalami, South Africa, 6,000 feet above sea level, north of Johannesburg, and the scene of round 2 of the 1984 World Motor Racing Championship. A very fast circuit indeed, a long 200-mile-an-hour straight, and we've had average speeds in practice here yesterday of over 140 miles an hour. The pole position man, Nelson Piquet, with the Brabham BMW, very quick speeds all the way down the grid. And as we look from the helicopter at the fast back section, that left-hand curve in the picture now, 180 miles an hour in 5th gear, and that curve spelt near tragedy for the Italian driver Piercarlo Ghinzani in this morning's warm-up session. He got out of control, the car slammed into the bank at enormous speed, broke in half and caught fire, but as the rest of the drivers stop, coming through the thick pall of black smoke, the marshals attending to Ghinzani on the left of the picture, they've got him out of the car, they've put the flames out on his own clothing. The other drivers rush up to help. That's the steering wheel rolling in the road from the ATS of Manfred Winkelhock. But fortunately, despite the car being completely destroyed, that's the cockpit section completely covered with fire extinguisher foam. Fortunately, Ghinzani's injuries were confined to serious burns on one hand and lesser burns on other parts of his body. So as the marshals clear away the wreckage, the rest of the field coming forward now to a delayed start, delayed not by that accident this morning, but delayed by problems for cars on the original starting grid, just as we had at Brazil a couple of weeks ago. But now it's all systems go. Nelson Piquet on pole, Keke Rosberg in the green and white Williams behind him, Nigel Mansell third quickest with the Lotus, fourth quickest is Patrick Tambay with the Renault, then it's Alain Prost should be next, but he's starting from the pit lane in the spare car because he's had trouble on the grid as well. So he's going to have a delayed start. There's the red light. Wait for the green. There is the green. Oh, and Piquet makes a very slow getaway. Piquet was badly delayed there. And as the rest of the field surge away, a marvellous start for Keke Rosberg, but already Piquet has gathered it all together. Piquet has put the Brabham up into second place despite that disastrous start. There is Alain Prost, starting in the spare McLaren from the pit lane after everybody else has gone through. So that's a handicap for him, a handicap for Nelson Piquet with that bad start, but it doesn't seem to have delayed him very much, as Keke Rosberg leads on the first of 76 laps. Already Nelson Piquet is second and closing. It's the other Brabham coming up into third place of Theo Fabi. Niki Lauda is fourth. It's the two Renaults, fifth and sixth, of Warwick and Tambay. But look how Nelson Piquet has recovered from that bad start and is already clambering all over the back of the leading Williams Honda of Keke Rosberg. Through the S's, up towards Leeuwkop, the uphill corner that will take them on to this crucial long straight. Exit from this corner is very important in order to get the maximum run at this long undulating straight. They're on it now to complete the first of the 76 laps through that slight left-hand curve, over the hump and on down towards Crowthorne Corner, 120 miles an hour in third gear as they come into the corner that they're lining up for now. And Piquet it is who's gone effortlessly into the lead. No trouble at all for the Brazilian world champion Nelson Piquet at the end of lap 1, at the start of lap 2. He's already in the lead. Keke Rosberg is second, Theo Fabi is third, Niki Lauda is fourth, Derek Warwick is fifth, Patrick Tambay is sixth, so it's Brabham, Williams, Brabham, McLaren, Renault, the first six. And already Theo Fabi in Brabham number 2 is applying the same sort of pressure to Keke Rosberg as Nelson Piquet was just a while ago. So the speed of these Brabham BMWs in the straight line is absolutely devastating. Through the S's for the second time, up the hill into Leeuwkop. Rosberg still has this narrow second place. Oh, and a little slide for Rosberg there as they come out of Leeuwkop onto the long straight. And let's see how far ahead Nelson Piquet has been able to get. It's foreshortened by the long telephoto lens on the television camera, but that is an enormous lead at the end of lap 2. Niki Lauda pushing hard in fourth place. Rosberg is about to lose his second place, I think. Number 2 Brabham goes into place number 2. Rosberg gets straight into the slipstream and tries to attack back, and showers of sparks from Theo Fabi's Brabham there. The Brabham was bottoming on the bumps on that long straight, and you saw showers of sparks at speeds of over 200 miles an hour on that flat-out switchback straight past the grandstands. But Teo Fabi is second, using every inch of the road and a bit of the curb there, but Fabi is second and pulling away. Rosberg is third. Niki Lauda it is now who is applying the pressure on Keke Rosberg. So Rosberg, the initial leader, already down to third and being pushed hard by the McLaren tag turbo of Lauda. Lauda is alongside the Williams. He can't do it there into Clubhouse Corner. On to the S's. Lauda still pushing all the way because Niki Lauda doesn't want those two leading Brabhams to get away. Fastest in the morning warm-up this morning, which is always so significant to show which cars are best in the race setup, was PK, but Niki Lauda was second quickest in the morning warm-up. Fabi was third, and they look to be, the two Brabhams and the McLaren, the quickest cars on the circuit at the moment. So as we see Alboreto and Lafitte coming into the picture there in 7th and 8th places, showers of sparks from Fabi again, but Lauda goes through into third place. Niki Lauda is third now with the McLaren. So from first all the way down to fourth in as many laps for Keke Rosberg, and now Rosberg has his mirrors full of the two Renaults of Derek Warwick, the man who so nearly won in Brazil, and Patrick Tambay, the man who lost third place in Brazil when his car ran out of petrol on the final lap. Both the Renault drivers very anxious to have a better day here at Kyalami. But perhaps the Williams is able to pull away just a touch from the Renaults there. Rosberg not under as much pressure in his fourth place now from the Renaults behind him in fifth and sixth than he was from Lauda, but look how Lauda has pulled away. So Brabham, McLaren, there he is, number 8, the third place McLaren, Niki Lauda. Niki Lauda, who also was very quick in Brazil 2 weeks ago, you'll remember his car retired when comfortably in the lead with an obscure electrical fault, and it's Brabham, McLaren down the long straight, and Niki Lauda is closing. Then it's Rosberg, then it's Warwick, then it's Tambay, then it's Nigel Mansell. It's not, it's Elio De Angelis, in fact, the number 11 Lotus, which was behind Mansell on the grid, but in fact has made a much better start than Mansell and has come through to challenge the first 6. Behind him, we've got Alboreto in Ferrari number 27. The Ferraris didn't shine at all here in practice, and the battle at the front very much between the two Brabhams of 1 Nelson Piquet and 2 Teo Fabi and McLaren number 8, which is Niki Lauda. Those are the first 3. We see now the battle for the lead there going through the S's. Here's the battle for 4th place. Rosberg, Warwick, Tambay, De Angelis and Alboreto, and look how Niki Lauda has closed on second man Teo Fabi. It's a 3-car battle for the lead now. Over the brow once again, over 200 miles an hour. Watch Fabi bottom on these bumps. He doesn't that time, but oh yes he does indeed as he hits the brakes. Sheets of sparks from the bottom of the Brabham, puffs of flame from the back, so typical from these turbocharged engines. The 4-cylinder BMW turbo in the 2 leading cars, ahead of the 6-cylinder tag Porsche turbo in the McLaren. Piquet, Fabi and Niki Lauda at the front of the South African Grand Prix. A circuit which has tight corners on this back section, that's Clubhouse Corner once more, on towards the S's, and also has this enormously long straight. So it's a circuit which needs a car that's good in tight corners and a circuit that needs a car that has very good straight line speed. It also demands good brakes because the corner at the end of the long straight, Crowthorne Corner, they come down from 205 miles an hour to 120, and that's very punishing indeed on brakes. Rosberg using all the road and over the curb. So does Elio De Angelis behind the Renaults in the black Lotus Renault. Honda engine and 3 Renault engines and a Ferrari engine. Then it's Jacques Lafitte closing up in the other Williams Honda. So both the Williams Hondas showing well at the moment. Rosberg, who was second in Brazil, now lying 4th here in South Africa. And not threatened quite so much by Derek Warwick at the moment. Now this is also going to be a race of tyres because remember most of these drivers will be expecting to make a pit stop part the way through for fresh tyres, but what we don't actually know and what we won't know until we get beyond half distance in the race is whether 1 or 2 of them may be gambling on running a slightly harder tyre compound and hoping that it will go through the race. In fact, several of the drivers have radio contact with their pit and they're able to decide as the race progresses and as they see how the car handles whether they're going to be able to do that. And look, this is Lauda taking second place from Fabi. This is Lauda looking across insolently at Fabi and chopping in front of him. Niki Lauda just glanced across at the young Italian and then slotted ahead right at the beginning of the straight. I think that Fabi might have made a little mistake there, because Lauda overtook him much earlier on that long straight than he would normally be able to if he was using all the slipstream and all the power of the TAG turbo engine. And indeed, it's in a straight line that these BMW-powered Brabhams are so very impressive. Already Lauda has pulled well away from Fabi. Now Lauda is in second place, and now we've got the battle of the Titans. Both of the first two drivers have been champion of the world twice. Niki Lauda in 1975 and 1977. Nelson Piquet, of course, in 1981 and 1983. And as Fabi struggles to stay with them in third place, Niki Lauda really piling the pressure on now with the McLaren. Niki Lauda, the man who turned his back on Grand Prix racing, walked away and said, I think there are other things in life to driving round in circles. He was away for a couple of seasons, but he came back, and here he is battling with the reigning world champion for the lead. And Fabi's coming in. This is Fabi coming from third place into the pits with Brabham number 2. Now, this is much too early for a routine stop. What is the problem with the Brabham? Puffs of flame from the back, but that's nothing to worry about. That's quite typical with these turbo engines. They're changing the tyres. That, again, may not necessarily tell us what the problem is, because automatically they'll give him a fresh set of tyres if he's come in. But in fact, that's all they are doing. Away he goes. I don't think it was quite as quick as 6.9 seconds, but it was certainly a very quick stop. Now, that was very early for Fabi to come in at the end of 11 laps to change onto a fresh set of tyres, and I can only guess that he must have given his tyres enormous punishment. In the early stages of the race, that's an indication of just how fast this race is being run. He's now on cold tyres, so he's going to have to warm them up, and he has inevitably, despite the speed of that pit stop, slipped down the field. So now we really have got a two-car battle for the lead. We're now on lap 12 of the 76, and here indeed is Niki Lauda charging on. He's about to lap one of the Ram Hearts. It's Philippe Alliot who's running at the back of the field. Already Nelson Piquet has passed him. Niki Lauda briefly stuck behind the slower car, although he's through now. Quickly down the order, Piquet the leader, Lauda in second place. Keke Rosberg is still third. Derek Warwick behind him in fourth place with his teammate Tombe. There's De Angelis sixth, Alboreto seventh, Lafitte eighth. René Arnoux has come through to 9th in Ferrari number 28, and Alain Prost is already 10th. Remember, he started in 26th place coming out of the pit lane, and now on lap 13, Alain Prost has come through into 10th place, so I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of him. There's Derek Warwick in number 16 Renault, not as close as he was to third man Keke Rosberg. The Renault's still 4th and 5th. There is Rosberg in third place, Warwick 4th. And the other Renault-powered car, the second Lotus of Nigel Mansell, is down in 11th place. Martin Brundle, the man who was a magnificent 5th in Brazil, despite his lack of turbocharged engine, is currently 20th. And of course, having no turbocharger here, 6,000 feet above sea level, really is a handicap, and the non-turbo cars simply aren't competitive. They just haven't got the speed for that long straight at this altitude. Up the hill through Leurkop goes the battle. Oh, and once again, Lauda has to pick his way past one of the Rams. This time it's Jonathan Palmer, but it hasn't worried Lauda at all. He's quite comfortably sitting there behind Nelson Piquet, and I think that Lauda, very, very canny driver indeed, I think he's decided not to keep the pressure so much on Piquet as to sit behind him and await developments. Don't forget that there are pit stops for both of these drivers to come. There's, what, half a second or less between them at the moment. They're that close. And I think that Niki Lauda is going to just sit on Nelson Piquet's tail and await developments. Once more, up to Leurkop. There's the fastest lap of the day, 69.689 seconds, over 131 miles an hour. And bear in mind that they're all on full tanks still, because no fuel stops this year. They have to run the whole race on their 220 litres of fuel, so they're still very heavy in terms of weight. of fuel once again down the long straight. They're passing the Spirit of Mauro Baldi. No trouble at all as they go past, with Lauda tucking in as they go into Crowthorne, down to Barbecue Bend, on towards the very fast Yukskai sweep where Ghinzani came to grief this morning. Now, what is Piquet going to do? Is he going to go all out to try and shake Lauda off, or is he going to play the same sort of waiting game that Lauda is? They don't want to run this race at a higher pace than they need to, because remember, fuel consumption is critical. But Lauda does get very, very close to the Brabham on the straight, on the corners. It's on the straights that the Brabham is able to pull away. Interestingly, the Brabhams have two different turbocharger setups for qualifying and for the race. They use a big turbocharger in qualifying. They use a smaller one in the race, which delivers less power but is meant to be more reliable over the longer distances. However, here today, they are using the large qualifying turbocharger. Whether that's going to have any effect on the reliability of the engine remains to be seen, but it's certainly meant that it's very, very fast in a straight line. This is Martin Brundle being lapped in the Tyrrell, and there's no question which is the faster of those two cars. Into Crowthorne goes Lauda. Briefly, the Tyrrell is between Piquet and Lauda. So Piquet is past, Lauda is not yet. Lauda sits behind the Tyrrell, and briefly, there's the blue flag for the blue Tyrrell. Now Lauda goes alongside and goes ahead. So for a moment, Piquet had quite a cushion. And it'll be interesting to watch now how long it takes for Lauda, the man who's already set the fastest lap of the race, how long it takes Lauda to close back up to that Brabham. It's not taking very long. Look through the back section, through Clubhouse, through the S's, up towards Leeuwenhoek. The McLaren closes right up on the Brabham again, and it's not until they get to the long, undulating 200-mile-an-hour straight where that big turbocharger on the Brabham BMW starts to take effect, and Nelson Piquet is able to draw out a little bit of space from the ever-present McLaren. Through the flat-out right-hand kink over the brow, Lauda taking a much closer line, keeping out of the slipstream there, but he's nothing like close enough to attack as they go into Crowthorne. Third gear, 120 miles an hour. Up into fourth gear, out of Crowthorne, down to the next right-hander, which is Barbecue Bend there. Now on through Yukskai Sweep. Note Piquet's line, using absolutely every inch of the road, straightening the circuit out as best he can. There's the first six with no change still. Warwick, Tombay and De Angelis, after 18 laps, are still 4th, 5th and 6th. But what about the progress of the other McLaren? We're watching McLaren number 8 in second place, but McLaren number 7 of Alain Prost, which started from the pit lane. It's the spare car. We understand the reason, incidentally, for Prost's delayed start was a frozen fuel valve on the grid with his proper car, and that is in. Oh, and Piquet waves! Piquet waves! Piquet puts his arm up, and he's letting Lauda by. Piquet's in trouble. Piquet is coming into the pits. What can this all be about? Nelson Piquet into the pits. He put his arm up. He's decided to come in. Is it an early tyre stop, or is it something worse? The mechanic's already changing the tyres anyway. On goes the new rubber. The stopwatch is running. Piquet still sitting impassive in the car. Up go the mechanic's arms. They're ready. The stopwatch stops. Piquet gets the power down on the road. He's going down the pit lane, fishtailing with power, storming through the back wheels. He's back onto the circuit, and he comes right out in the traffic. So he's coming out that's going to be 6th place. Lauda has gone into the lead. Rosberg is 2nd. Warwick and Tombay in the Renaults are 3rd and 4th. De Angelis is 5th, and there is Piquet in 6th place. Alain Prost has come all the way up to 7th. So a wonderful midfield tussle there with Prost on Piquet's tail. Piquet is on cold tyres, but at this rate, it's not going to take him long to warm them up. That's Tombay, De Angelis, Piquet, Prost and Alboreto just behind them is 8th. Piquet has got his fresh tyres. He's in 6th place now, and that looked pretty early to me. Don't forget, it's a 76-lap race, and he's made his tyre stop on lap 22, so we can only guess that, like his teammate Teo Fabi, he had put rather too much punishment through his original set of tyres, but he's already made up a place. He's already passed De Angelis, so he's now 5th. He's going past Tombe, he's going straight into 4th place. Tremendous progress up the field. So, as Derek Warwick laps the Spirit at the front of the picture there, that's Piquet with Warwick ahead of him. Piquet now in 5th place, in 4th place, I should say, splitting Warwick and Tombe. So, Lauda's still the leader, Rosberg is still 2nd, Derek Warwick is still 3rd, but on fresh tyres and absolutely charging, Nelson Piquet coming up to lap Mauro Baldi in the Spirit now. And nothing is going to stop this man's progress now. He's got his fresh tyres, and it may well be, as we were saying, that his first set of tyres had a lot of punishment, and that was why he wasn't able to hold off Niki Lauda. He realised he was going to lose the lead to Lauda sooner or later, and so into the pits he came, and he's now on his fresh tyres. He's passed Baldi, he's going up the hill into Leeuwkop. Now, how long is it going to take him to close on the battling pair in front of him, which is 2nd man Rosberg and 3rd man Derek Warwick? Tombe, De Angelis and Alain Prost lining up to go past Baldi, but the second place battle is being caught by Piquet very, very quickly. It's at the front of the picture now. They're all lapping Baldi further down that straight. But excitement everywhere you look here at Kyalami. But the battle for 2nd place is about to become a 3-car battle, because Rosberg, Warwick and Piquet are all going to be after that 2nd place. Tombe, De Angelis and Prost equally close. There's Tombe, De Angelis and Prost. So Prost is 7th, De Angelis 6th, Tombe 5th, and past Derek Warwick goes Piquet. Piquet into 3rd place. Now, look at Rosberg glancing in his mirrors. He knows he's now got the Brabham behind him, not the Renault, and not for long, because the Brabham goes by, going down into Crowthorne, and already, despite that pit stop, the incredible Nelson Piquet is back into 2nd place. Niki Lauda is the leader, but he's still got his tyre stop to come. Nelson Piquet, now very definitely the fastest man on the track at the moment, is back into 2nd place, having had a very quick stop for fresh rubber, having come out of the pits in 6th place, having come straight into all the traffic, and not fazed by that one little tiny bit, has leapfrogged his way up into 2nd place. Niki Lauda now comfortably in the lead, but he's got a tyre stop to come, don't forget. Now back into 2nd place is Nelson Piquet. Keke Rosberg is 3rd, Derek Warwick is 4th, Patrick Tombe is 5th, Elio De Angelis is 6th, and Alain Prost is 7th, but I think he's not going to be 7th for long. In fact, I think we've just seen him go past De Angelis. Let's look behind this battle. There's Rosberg. Yes, there he is. He's ahead of Tombe too. So Prost has now really got the hammer down. Prost has passed De Angelis, Prost has passed Tombe. Prost is now on the tail of Derek Warwick. So Warwick is 4th, Prost is 5th, Tombe is 6th, De Angelis is 7th, Alboreto is 8th. Battles all the way down the field. Martin Brundle about to be lapped now by Rosberg, and De Angelis too has gone past Tombe. Yet another place change there. The Lotus Renault has passed Renault number 15. So Tombe is now pushed out of the points. Tombe is now down into 7th place. Brundle being passed by Rosberg there. Tombe clearly not as happy as the 2 Renault-powered cars ahead of him, of his own teammate Derek Warwick and the Italian Elio De Angelis in the Lotus. But Prost has gone past De Angelis too. Prost is now putting pressure on Derek Warwick. They've still got Martin Brundle in the middle of that traffic, who's got to be lapped. Always a problem on these circuits, except there is, of course, lots of overtaking opportunity on the long straight, and I think you'll see Brundle absolutely swallowed up by this lot as they come down the straight. Rosberg is already ahead of him. Brundle in number 3 is passed by Warwick, but not yet by Prost. Yes, there goes Prost now, past him also in the red and white McLaren. De Angelis and Tombe still have to pass and lap the Tyrrell. There goes De Angelis. And we've got a fastest lap for Tombe, 69.458, that's 132.1. The cars are getting lighter as they use up more fuel, they're going to get quicker. But surprising that Tombe has posted fastest lap, because he's lost 2 or 3 places in the last few laps. Tombe it is who's dropped to 7th place. There is 3rd man Rosberg, 4th man Warwick, 5th man Prost. This is lap 28, and I think we've got problems for Piquet. Nelson Piquet going slowly. Nelson Piquet crawling round in Brabham number 1. That wonderful charge after his pit stop back up to 2nd place seems to have turned sour. Yes, the Brabham is coming to a halt. It's coming to a complete stop. Piquet looking in the mirrors. Whatever the problem is, that looks extremely terminal. The car coasting round. Piquet's teammate Fabi has already retired with, we understand, turbocharger trouble, and perhaps the big qualifying turbochargers that the Brabhams have been running may have spelt their downfall here at Kyalami. These enormously high speeds on the long straight. Anyway, whatever the trouble is, Piquet in the pits and out of 2nd place. Keke Rosberg has gone through into 2nd, Warwick into 3rd, Prost into 4th. The mechanics cluster round the Brabham, and they're looking at the left-hand rear of the car. That's where the turbocharger lives, and Piquet out, walking away into the back of the pits. Off come the gloves. The car is wheeled away. The world champion for the 2nd race in this, so far, 2-race season is out. Now, that will have promoted all the battle. Oh, and look, Prost has made up a place while we were watching that. Prost has gone past Derek Warwick. It's Alain Prost in the McLaren up into 3rd place. Rosberg is now 2nd. It's McLaren's 1st and 3rd. Niki Lauda still with his comfortable lead. Keke Rosberg with a very uncomfortable 2nd place because breathing down his neck, the indomitable Alain Prost, who started 26th, who's now up to 3rd. A little twitch there from the Williams coming out of Crowthorne, going down through Barbecue along Yukskai Sweep, and the McLaren getting closer to the Williams all the time. Behind the McLaren, it's still Derek Warwick. They've got the other Tyrrell just in front of them of the German Stefan Belloff to lap. But Rosberg twitching again there with the Williams Honda, which just doesn't look as comfortable through the twisting back section as the McLaren. And Alain Prost in 3rd place, very, very close to Rosberg now. And it's all going to be down to the power as they come up to the long straight. Going up into Leurkop, 2nd gear, 115 miles an hour, as they take the apex up the hill and out of this corner and on down the straight. Can the McLaren get a pull through the slipstream and close on the Williams? There's a right-hand kink, there it is, they take that flat out, and Prost takes a close line. Oh no, Prost comes into the pits. It wasn't a close line, it was a pit stop. Alain Prost in the pits. Patrick Tombe in the pits. These are the routine tyre stops where at the end of lap 30 of the 76-lap race, so we're now getting into the routine tyre stops. The McLaren mechanics swarming all over McLaren number 7. It's off the jacks. It's quite a quick one. No, it's not as quick as it should be. 13.1 seconds, and Tombe queuing up behind to come out, almost felling a couple of McLaren mechanics as he comes through. So that shows you how important these pit stops are, because Prost was comfortably ahead of Tombe when they came into the pits. He's come out of the pits with Tombe absolutely breathing down his neck. Meanwhile, back in the race, it's Stefan Belloff, who has been lapped now by 2nd man Rosberg. He hasn't yet been lapped. He is now lapped by Warwick. And just behind them, Elio De Angelis, waiting to pass Belloff. There he goes. So the order now, Lauda with a pit stop still to make, is the leader. Rosberg 2nd, Warwick 3rd, De Angelis 4th. All of them with pit stops still to make. But Prost has had his stop, and so has Tombe. And of course, both Brabhams are out of the race. Nelson Piquet out. We've had confirmation that it was indeed a broken turbocharger for Brabham number 1. So as Piquet watches from the sidelines, the battle's still well and truly on. There's De Angelis with his Renault-powered Lotus pursuing the Renault-powered Renault of Derek Warwick and the Honda-powered Williams of 2nd man Keke Rosberg. That's the 3-car battle for 2nd place there. But Niki Lauda comfortably in front of them in the lead. There is Lauda! Lauda in the pits now. This could be the most important pit stop of the race. The McLaren mechanics go into action. The jacks are under the car. The tyres are being changed. The power wrench is on the wheel nuts. The stopwatch ticking away. The front is off the jack. The back is off the jack. It's 10.6 seconds. The car falters briefly as it moves, but now it's away. It's a very good, clean pit stop. And goodness me, Niki Lauda is back in the race with empty road behind him. Niki Lauda has come into the pits, made a perfect tyre stop, come out again, and with fresh tyres, he is still in the lead. That's a demonstration of McLaren supremacy here at Kyalami. Niki Lauda, with Nelson Piquet no longer there to challenge him, has come out of the pits, and he's still comfortably in the lead. Absolutely no one in his mirrors. He can warm up his fresh tyres as he pleases. He hasn't got to shut the door on anybody. He can settle into his new rubber. And he now knows that what he's got to do is drive a clean, clear race, because barring mechanical failure or an error on Lauda's part, and goodness, that's a rare thing from this very, very experienced Austrian, he surely must have the South African Grand Prix very clearly in his sights. That's the Toleman of Ayrton Silva de Senna, the Brazilian, just ahead of Lauda now. The Toleman's had no nose section for most of this race. It lost it very early on, but it doesn't seem to have worried Senna too much in only his second Grand Prix. But Lauda goes past him down the long straight, and he's got now in front of him one of the Alphas. That'll be Riccardo Patrese in the green Benetton Alpha, the next car to be lapped. So as Lauda works his way through the traffic, the order behind, there it is, still this lovely three-car battle for second place. All these three cars still have their tyre stops to make, but Rosberg leading Warwick, leading De Angelis. Warwick was pondering before the race whether it was going to be possible for him in Renault number 16 to do the entire race on one set of tyres and do away with the tyre stop by running slightly harder compound tyres. I would guess that he's not going to do that, because if he had been running on harder tyres, he just wouldn't have been as competitive as he has. And certainly that Renault running very strongly in third place, with the Elio De Angelis car looking threatening but not able to find a way past. And still Rosberg with the slightly ungainly looking Williams Honda. It just doesn't look as smooth through the corners as does the Renault or the Lotus, but nevertheless Rosberg doing a very sterling job, holding second place. His teammate Jacques Lafitte, incidentally, now in sixth place. He's still got a pit stop to make, but Lafitte in sixth place, Rosberg in second place. So far it's a good race for the Williams Hondas, bouncing over the bumps. Warwick tucked into the slipstream, but as they go down through Crowthorne Corner, he's not going to find a way past. And as they now go down through Barbecue Bend and through the Yuxkai Sweep, the Williams Honda does indeed pull away. There's the order. Alboreto sixth now, Lafitte is fifth, De Angelis fourth, Warwick third, Rosberg second, and Lauda with his pit stop comfortably under his belt, a very strong first. 36 laps completed of the 76, so we're approaching half distance. And De Angelis had a little nibble there at Warwick, had a little look at the outside as they went into Clubhouse Corner, but now as they go uphill once more to Leercock, second gear now. Up that steep incline, the Williams Honda hanging the tail out a little bit. De Angelis using the curb with the Lotus. Oh, and a little wave there from, I think that means a pit stop coming up for the Williams Honda. It does indeed. This must be Keke Rosberg's tyre stop. Rosberg into the pit lane. The Williams mechanic holds up the board, so Rosberg knows exactly where to go to. And now the Williams mechanics go into action, up onto the jack. It was a little slow up onto the jack, I would have thought there. The press photographers cluster round. Patrick Head having a little word there with the ear defenders on the right of the picture. Oh, and Rosberg nearly stalled there. The Honda engine now back on the cam, and away goes Rosberg. Now this is Warwick's stop. This is Derek Warwick from second place into the pits. Now, is this going to be quicker than Rosberg? Is he going to be able to come out of the pits in front of or behind the Williams? Off the jacks, and Derek Warwick is away. A smooth stop, and that certainly did look better than Keke Rosberg's stop. Warwick looks in the mirrors there as he comes out of the pits. avoiding a little piece of rubber which seemed to be left in the road there from somebody's tyre. So with 37 laps to go, let's look down the order. Lauda, still the leader, and he has had his pit stop. Elio De Angelis is now second, and Jacques Lafitte is now third in Lotus and Honda respectively, but they've still got to stop. So has Michele Alboreto in fourth place. Alain Prost is fifth, and he has stopped. René Arnoux Ferrari is sixth. Nigel Mansell is seventh, and here comes Mansell. No, it's not, it's De Angelis. De Angelis from second place into the pits. So this is our new second man, now in the pits. Lafitte will have gone by into second place. It looks quite a quick one, except for this back wheel. The left-hand back wheel was a bit slow, but now it's off the jacks, and rather like Keke Rosberg, De Angelis had a little bit of trouble actually getting his foot off the clutch and getting the power onto the road. He comes out just by Martin Brundle, who has to swerve a little bit because I'm not sure that De Angelis could see Brundle. It might have been in the blind spot behind that big, wide black rear wheel on the Lotus, but Brundle is past and De Angelis is back in the race. So that means Lauda leading, Lafitte now second, Alboreto third, and Alain Prost, who's made his stop, is now up to fourth. Nigel Mansell is fifth. We haven't seen a pit stop for Lotus number 12. Tombe is now sixth. Warwick is seventh. Those are the two Renaults. So Tombe's quicker pit stop has put him ahead of Warwick. De Angelis in the picture now is eighth after his stop. Keke Rosberg is ninth. In front of De Angelis on the road, we've got number 3 Tyrrell once more. That's Martin Brundle with the Cosworth DFV non-turbo car. He's hoping to do the whole race without a tyre stop. And as De Angelis goes up the hill from Leurcop, he's got Keke Rosberg not very far behind him. Onto the... there is Rosberg, in fact. Rosberg closing. Oh, and a glance in the mirror there for De Angelis. De Angelis slowing, I think. De Angelis has a problem. De Angelis on the lap after he's come out of the pits is going straight back in again. So, De Angelis, oh yes, he raises his hands in a gesture of despair. Has he got a duff wheel or... Oh no, there are flames at the back. That looks like an engine problem. They're standing by to change the tyres again, just in case it was a duff tyre from his last set. But no, there's fire extinguishers at the back of the car. That looks to me like a turbocharger failure. And it's all over for De Angelis. The engine's still running, but lots of smoke where smoke shouldn't be. And as he revs the engine, Peter Waugh talking to him. Peter Waugh says, "Up on the jacks, please, chaps." And he's still in the car, the engine's still running, but that pit stop has started to have that rather leisurely look as they take the bodywork off, that rather leisurely look which spells the end of a race. Here is Alain Prost in McLaren number 7, and we've now got Alain Prost on the tail of Jacques Lafitte. Lafitte, who hasn't made his stop yet, is very, very well placed now in second place. We've got Jacques Lafitte up into second place in the yellow and white Williams with the green helmet in it. That is number 5. That's Lafitte, comfortably ahead of his own teammate who's had that rather disastrous pit stop. That's Keke Rosberg. But I don't think that Lafitte is going to hold off the ever-present McLaren of Alain Prost, who's on fresh tyres and is absolutely flying here, as is his teammate Niki Lauda. I don't think that Lafitte can hold that McLaren off for very much longer. Up the hill through Leurcop, onto the long straight. The blue flags are waving for Lafitte, and absolutely effortlessly past goes the McLaren, and Lafitte jinks in behind to try and get a little tow from the very, very fast tag turbo-powered McLaren. But Prost is pulling away already. Lafitte is almost out of that slipstream. They've got one of the arrows ahead of them, one of the Cosworth DFE-powered arrows ahead to be lapped. That's the Belgian Thierry Boutsen, who only just scraped into the race because of Ghinzani's accident this morning, which took Ghinzani out of the race. And there is De Angelis still in the pits. No, he's out again. De Angelis rejoins despite that rather terminal-looking fire at the back of the Lotus. De Angelis is back in the race. They've worked on the car. He's obviously well down. There is Ayrton Silva de Senna, still with no nose cone on the Tolman, about to be lapped by the second man, Alain Prost. And as you saw from the caption a short while ago, almost half a minute, 27 odd seconds between leader Niki Lauda and second man Alain Prost. And as we were saying about Lauda and Prost from Brazil a couple of weeks ago, the best position to be in is if you're in the lead and it's your own teammate in second place defending you from behind. But let's remember, still 31 laps to go. That's around 80 miles of motor racing ahead of these cars, and it was in Brazil that Lauda had just the same sort of comfortable lead over his own teammate, and he dropped out. There is Prost, number 7, in second place. It's Jacques Laffite third. He hasn't stopped yet. It's Alboreto in the Ferrari fourth, and I wonder if either of those two drivers are intending to stop at all, or whether they're hoping to do the full distance on the hard tyre. Nigel Mansell is fifth in the Lotus. Remember, he hasn't stopped yet. Derek Warwick is sixth and Patrick Tombe is seventh. Those are the two Renaults. And Keke Rosberg is now in 8th place. Alain Prost, second place man. Over the brow, onto the long straight. The fastest section of the circuit here at Kyalami. And it's still very, very hot indeed. Perhaps the heat may have played some part in the failure of the two Brabhams, both Nelson Piquet and Theo Fabi out of the race. It was only the McLarens that were really able to match the early race pace of the Brabhams, and they've so far anyway been able to do it with reliability. Both the McLarens still going in first and second place. That's Prost once more, going through the back section along the Yuxkai sweep, top gear, a flat-out left-hand kink. And that's Patrick Tombe in the pits, a second stop for Renault number 15, and you can see how blistered those rear tyres are. So a new set of Michelin for Renault number 15, tyre troubles for the Renault team. And although it's a nice quick stop by the look of things, yes, 10.5 seconds, it's a very good stop. But 2 pit stops is not what you want when you're battling for championship points and when all your rivals have only had 1 tyre stop. So, as Tombe goes back into the race, we look at Derek Warwick and Nigel Mansell. Warwick has now gone ahead of Mansell. Mansell still with a stop to make, 28 laps remaining. And they've got once more that Thierry Boots and Arrows between them. Thierry Boots and Arrows now being lapped by Nigel Mansell in Lotus number 12. But Derek Warwick has gone ahead of him and pulled away. So Warwick now 5th, Mansell demoted to 6th, and I think we could see Warwick starting to close on the Ferrari of Alboreto. There is Alboreto. Senna in the Tolman between them, once more to be lapped, but Derek Warwick now with the bit really between his teeth, closing on Alboreto. Clearly the sole surviving Ferrari, number 27, is attempting to do the entire race on 1 set of tyres, and that could well mean that Alboreto's rubber is getting a little tired. Warwick with fresh rubber on the Renault, closing rapidly on the Ferrari for 4th place. Still Jacques Laffite is 3rd in the Williams. Still, of course, Prost 2nd and Lauda 1st, and nobody looking like catching those very, very rapid McLarens. But lots of excitement, lots of battle over the subsidiary positions. Laffite 3rd. And I think he's not going as quickly as Warwick either. Warwick with his crash helmet bobbing around in the cockpit on the bumps of Kyalami, making up yards of tarmac on Alboreto all the time. There's Boutsen in the Arrows. Behind him, 22, the green car with the red nose, was the Alfa Romeo of Riccardo Patrese, currently running in 10th place. But Derek Warwick really charging, really anxious to make up for the bitter disappointment he had in Brazil 2 weeks ago, when certain victory was snatched from his grasp by broken front suspension. Alboreto and Warwick in the Renault charging up behind him. Laffite quite a way in front of them in 3rd place, but I think if Warwick keeps this pace up, then Laffite is going to be coming under pressure from the Hampshire driver in the Renault also. Alboreto being caught all the time as they go through Clubhouse Corner, down into the S's, up the hill into Leocop. And on the top straight, that's going to be where Warwick will want to get a good run out of Leocop and tuck into the Ferrari's slipstream. Now surely he's poised as they come hard on the throttle, up through the gearbox from 2nd gear all the way up to 5th, through the flat-out right-hand kink, and Warwick's very close indeed. Now as they come over the brow, is Warwick close enough to dart? No, he's not. The Ferrari still has a lot of power. It's under braking he's going to have to try and do it, and he's not quite close enough. Michele Alboreto, the man who drove for Tyrrell last year, the man who was the first leader of that dramatic Brazilian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. Ferrari so far this season not showing well, certainly not showing well here at Kyalami. They weren't very quick in practice. René Arnoux had a miserable race, and there goes Warwick. No, he doesn't. Warwick darts alongside, going into sunset. That is a brave place to try it, and it doesn't quite come off, but into Clubhouse Corner. Oh, and Warwick getting ragged on the outside. He's absolutely determined to take fourth place from Michele Alboreto. But here at Kyalami, very hard to do it through the twists round the back. You've got to be patient and wait for the straight. And on the straight, the Ferrari does seem to have the legs of the Renault. Alboreto keeping the door firmly shut as they go up into Leeuwkop. Now, this was where the Renault we expected to go past last time, and it just didn't have the power. Look how Nigel Mansell has closed up that gap again. Certainly Warwick is being held up by the Ferrari. Now he goes alongside at the very beginning of the straight, and Alboreto isn't going to let him get away with it. They're absolutely side by side as they come at 200 miles an hour down the straight. The two cars almost touch there. They close, oh, and very close under braking. But Warwick holds his ground. Warwick forces his way through on the inside. Derek Warwick takes fourth place. Michele Alboreto is demoted to fifth, and now look at that Renault go away. So Warwick is fourth, Alboreto is fifth, Nigel Mansell is sixth. We've still got Jacques Lafitte in third place. It's in engine terms, Tag Turbo, Honda Turbo, Renault Turbo, Ferrari Turbo and Renault Turbo. Two McLarens in the first two places, a Williams in third place, a Renault in fourth place. We're going to see it again. Look how close they get under braking. Watch the two front wheels, they are inches apart. Two top-line Grand Prix drivers, neither of them giving an inch. And that's Martin Brundle in the pits with a crumpled nose section. So Uncle Ken Tyrrell won't be too pleased about that. There's Patrick Tambay and Elio De Angelis, both of them well done. Tambay after his two stops. And I think that was a Lotus that they just flashed by. I think Nigel Mansell's in problems. I think that you saw a glimpse there of Nigel Mansell as we see Tambay and De Angelis, both of them out of the points at the moment. De Angelis is right at the back of the field after his long stop. Yes, it was Mansell. Mansell in the pits. So Mansell, who hasn't made a tyre stop, comes in now. But from the speed he was doing, the rather slow speed that he came into the pits, he's done a very slow half lap, and I think there's some sort of engine trouble with the Lotus Renault. So that's a great shame, because Nigel Mansell, who was very well placed, we go back to Tambay and De Angelis. Tambay, who is moving up, in fact, after his second pit stop. We've now got Tambay on the lap chart in sixth place, so he is getting back into the points. And Elio De Angelis, who's right at the back. Yes, Mansell out of the car, walking away. No doubt very disappointed. He crashed out of the Brazilian Grand Prix. He's retired today, so still no championship points in 1984 for Nigel Mansell. There's the new sixth man, number 15, Patrick Tambay with the Renault. A glimpse there of the other yellow car, 14, is Manfred Winkelhock, the German with the ATS. He's right at the tail of the field. He's another man to have spent some time in the pits. And quite a race of attrition it's been here today. But no attrition yet for the McLaren team. Both of their cars still running. Number 8 leads, number 7 in second place. Niki Lauda comfortably in front. 19 Grand Prix wins already and 2 championship titles for Niki Lauda. This is Alain Prost in number 7, the man who started his World Championship career with McLaren, who went to Renault, who was expected by so many to win the championship last year, but had a lot of bad luck, who left the Renault team after quite a falling out immediately after the final race here in Kyalami at the end of last season, went straight across to the McLaren team and started off his renaissance with McLaren with a win in Brazil 2 weeks ago. Alain Prost, a very, very capable driver. Niki Lauda, who wants to show this year who is number 1. There is Niki Lauda. A lot of people were very interested at the beginning of the season to see who would be quicker. out of the wily old fox Niki Lauda and the hard-charging professional Alain Prost. And here today, anyway, it's been Niki Lauda who's been quickest. But don't forget that Alain Prost started the race from the pit lane in the spare car after that starting grid problem with his fuel feed on his original car, number 7. Oh, and that's Keke Rosberg. Keke Rosberg's car parked with a pall of oil smoke at the back from the Honda engine. There's Patrick Head looking at the television screen in the pits. And no doubt at all, yes, Keke Rosberg is out. What a shame. The Honda engine, I would guess, has expired. Certainly some sort of mechanical problem at the back of the car. Rosberg has parked. Hasn't been a happy race at all today. Rosberg having driven as hard as Rosberg always does, but a pit stop that didn't quite go right. And after that he was... Oh, and that's Warwick in! That is Derek Warwick coming in for a second tyre stop. Tombé's Renault had to stop twice for tyres. Now the same fate as before than Warwick. After all his effort to get past Alboretto's Ferrari up into 4th place, it's a quick stop. He's out again, but certainly Alboretto will have gone by, and that will have dropped Derek Warwick down again. There's Elio De Angelis, who's a long way behind, coming past. Warwick tucks in behind him. He's now on another set of cold tyres, which he's got to warm up, and Warwick must be very, very disappointed indeed, because he has been driving as hard as anybody in this race. We'll have to work out from the lap chart in a second where that has put him. But as an absolute gaggle of traffic comes through, Niki Lauda is in the middle of that gaggle, and not far ahead of it, number 27, the Ferrari, is Michele Alboretto, who's about to be lapped, and at the back of that is one of the Renaults. That, in fact, is Tombé. So, as Ayrton Senna is lapped in the Tolman by Ferrari 27 of Alboretto, Niki Lauda is coming up to lap the 4th placed Ferrari already, and that is an indication of the domination that Niki Lauda has stamped on this race. Alboretto in 27, Niki Lauda in 8, Tombé in 15, all of them in different places in the race. Alboretto is 4th, Lauda is the leader, and Tombé is tucked in behind. Remember, he's had 2 pit stops too. Behind them, the green car is the Alfa Romeo of Riccardo Patrese. He's still going quite strongly, although he's out of the points. And still Alboretto is followed by Lauda. Lauda certainly won't want to push the issue too hard now. He knows from his pit signals he's got a very big lead over his own teammate. There's the blue flag for Alboretto. Lauda tucked in behind, Tombé up with them, and Lauda waiting his moment, I think. He certainly, there he goes. He certainly won't want to chance anything, and he waits until the full run of the straight. Lauda, Prost, Lafitte the order, McLaren, Williams, then Alboretto in 4th place. Tombé is back up to 5th, and there is Derek Warwick's position in 6th place after his tyre stop. So the Renaults of Tombé and Warwick are still in the championship points in 5th and 6th places despite their 2 tyre stops. There is leader Niki Lauda on his way. Alboretto, the 4th man, safely lapped. Oh, and that's Jacques Lafitte. That's Lafitte out of the Williams, gloves off. And there's no back wheel. There's no right-hand back wheel on the Williams. There's a failure there at the back of the car. He's parked it by the side of the road, but he's lost a wheel. And that is Jacques Lafitte's race run out of 3rd place, which has promoted to 3rd place the Ferrari, but the Ferrari is being challenged by Tombé. So there you have the 3rd place battle now. Alboretto is 3rd in Ferrari 27, but Patrick Tombé, despite those 2 pit stops, we've got a yellow flag waving there, but Tombé is through to 3rd place. Alboretto in the Ferrari is down to 4th. He's got Elio De Angelis right on his tail, but De Angelis is, of course, a long way behind after his long pit stop. So Renault, oh, and that's Beloff. That was what the yellow flag must have been. That's Tyrrell number 4 of Stefan Beloff, buried in the sand at Crowthorne Corner. That's the 120-mile-an-hour sharp right-hander. We see it at the end of the long straight, and Beloff goes off at enormous speed. The car swaps end, and that deep sandy earth has done a very, very good job of slowing the Tyrrell down before it buries itself in the bank. Niki Lauda now, up with Patrick Tambay, the third place man. He is going to lap Patrick Tambay in third place, so amazingly we're going to have the leader lapping everyone except his own teammate who's in second place. In fact, Lauda, once again, not in any great hurry to lap Patrick Tambay. I think he's going to be quite content to sit behind Tambay, knowing that it's only his own teammate in second place, Warwick fourth, Alboreto fifth, and Riccardo Patrese in that little green Alpha that we've had glimpses of from time to time is now into the championship points. Number 22 moves into sixth place. But the oh, and that's Tambay! That is Tambay! In this incredible race, we've got another problem for another third place man. Now, Tambay faltered there, he's still going, but there's something very amiss with, oh yes, he's jinking from side to side, that's fuel. That must be fuel. He's moving the car jerkily from side to side to try and get the last drops of fuel up into the fuel pickup, but the car has stopped, and Patrick Tambay is going to be absolutely livid because it's exactly this problem that stopped him on the last lap of the Brazilian Grand Prix. The new fuel regulations have claimed another victim, and once again it's poor Patrick Tambay. So up into third place comes Tambay's teammate Derek Warwick. Michele Alboreto is now fourth. That's put Patrese up into fifth place. Sixth is now Andrea de Cesaris in the Ligier Renault. There's Tambay's fastest lap. That's a cruel irony. That will be no consolation to him at all, because Tambay from third place is right out of the race. There is our second man, Alain Prost. And there is our leader, Niki Lauda. And while all about them seem to be running into cruel luck, nothing seems to be able to stop these McLarens. Niki Lauda, if he can keep going to the checkered flag, will be scoring today his 20th Grand Prix victory in a long and illustrious career. And he will, oh, and that's Alboreto. I can't believe this race. Michele Alboreto has parked the Ferrari that was fourth. He's out of the car. Off comes his crash helmet. Michele Alboreto impassively walks away. We can't guess what the trouble is with the Ferrari, but he's parked by the side of the road. He is out from fourth place. So as the last lap begins for Niki Lauda in McLaren number 8, out of the race is Michele Alboreto, and that will promote de Cesaris to fifth place, Riccardo Patrese to fourth place, and it's going to put Ayrton Senna da Silva, the Brazilian, in the noseless Tolman that has been plodding round well down the field up into sixth place. So it could be a championship point, the first championship point for Ayrton Senna da Silva. Sunset corner for the last time for Lauda, into clubhouse, the tight second gear left-hander, the short straight down to the S's. That McLaren hasn't missed a beat for 75 laps. Out of the S's, the final uphill drag in second gear to Leeuwkop, through Leeuwkop, and on to that long, long straight for the very last time. There is Niki Lauda. Behind him, he's got Derek Warwick, who is just a lap behind. A race of McLaren domination. There is the checkered flag, and Niki Lauda wins the 1984 South African Grand Prix here at Kyalami. Derek Warwick takes his third place. Alain Prost is going to come home second. There is Prost, so it's conclusively McLaren's 1 and 2. Niki Lauda the winner with the McLaren. Alain Prost second for McLaren. Third, Derek Warwick with the Renault. Fourth is Riccardo Patrese with the Alfa. Andrea de Cesaris fifth for Ligier. Ayrton Senna da Silva his first championship point. Sixth for Tolman.
Very decisive victory here in the South African Grand Prix by Niki Lauda. Niki, early in the race, you were having the only real test of another driver touching you today with Nelson Piquet. How is that going?
Everything was going very well. I had no problems at all with my car. From the beginning to the end, everything was perfect, so that's all I can really say.
Battling with Nelson, it seemed like his motor was a bit more powerful and you were catching him under braking.
That's correct.
Was that his advantage still, the motor?
Yeah, his engine was a little bit quicker, but I think I had no problem at all.
Once you got by, you certainly had no problems. What about the pit stop? Did everything go smoothly for you there?
There's nothing to say about this race because from the beginning to the end everything worked perfect and there's no funny parts in it. Everything was perfect and no problem.
Well, in that situation when everything's perfect, is it more difficult to keep your concentration going?
No, because you know when everything is perfect you have to take it easy and try to finish, and that's what I tried to do and it worked out.
Were you worried at all about a failure that, like in Rio, possibly, when things were going so smoothly?
You're always worried until the flag drops, and the flag finally drops on me being first, so it's all right.
9 points in the championship, with your teammate having 15. Is there going to be more rivalry within the team now?
I don't know, I will try to catch him.
So, Prost and Lauda at the head of the championship table, Rosberg, De Angelis and Derek Warwick next up. There'll be further battling just 3 weeks away at the Belgian Grand Prix at the Zolder circuit. We'll be there. Join us.